To better understand the tension between East and West, we've come here to Istanbul, Turkey, a city straddling both Europe and Asia. Istanbul has a rich Islamic past. Until 1922, it was the center of the last great Islamic empire of the Ottomans. But 80 years ago, Kemal Attaturk became the first leader of a Muslim people to believe that in order to modernize, Islam's influence on society had to be crushed.
Governments which ruled Muslims were very often, like colonial governments, they suffocated Muslims. They suffocated those who wanted to go back to their original culture. With all due respect to Kemal Attaturk in Turkey, I mean, this man is attempted to suppress Islam.
Under Attaturk, Friday ceased to be a public holiday and mosques emptied. Sharia law was replaced by Western legal codes. Islamic scholars were forced to submit to state control. Arabic script was replaced by the Latin alphabet, and Turks were sent back to school to learn it.
All the history of modernization was written in a way which excluded Muslim culture. So in order to be modern, especially in the Turkish case, we had to get away from our Muslim background.
With his power as president and dictator, he begins his reform. He commands young Turks to go to business school. He brings in foreigners to show girls how to dress, how to manage their homes the European way. Into European dress, he forces both men and women, sweeping away the veil and the fez.
For several decades, it seemed as if Ataturk's reforms could succeed. By the 70s, Turkey had become one of the most westernized countries in the region and an active member of NATO. But at the same time, rapid urbanization was changing Turkey's cities. A free market economy had increased inequality, and voters were frustrated at what they saw as corruption within the political system. Many Muslims began to question Ataturk's belief that Islam should be removed from politics.
This desire to talk about politics as being separate from Islam is something that Muslim scholars on the whole have never accepted. Why? The Prophet Muhammad was a prophet and a statesman.
So pro-Islamic politicians promised to rectify a split that they saw as artificial. Turkish secular author Aysel Ekşi.
It is very easy to use religion in Turkey, in other Muslim countries, as part of Turkey is very poor, and then they just believe that if the Muhammad Prophet time comes back again, they will be prosperous. And this is what they claim.
By 1996, the Turkish Islamic Party had gained enough popularity to win over 20% of the national vote and came to power in a coalition government. In response, secular officials clamped down on Islam's most visible symbols. These women became victims of a crackdown on the headscarf, which was banned from all public institutions.
I was studying here, this university. For 3 years, I studied at Department of Physics. But the 4th year, I couldn't enter because of my headscarf. They said us, you are covering your head with hijab, with scarf. You couldn't enter this university. But I studied with my headscarf for 3 years. Yeah, this building is the library of Istanbul University, and we can't with our headscarf, even in a library, we can't go, we can't enter, we can't search in there.
If we allow the girls to cover their heads, one day we would be forced to cover our heads as well. We were frightened that if we had allowed them, they would turn Turkey into Iran.
The headscarf isn't an object that represents a political party or a movement. In my opinion, it's not an instrument of propaganda. For me, the headscarf is about being religious and as a symbol of Islam.
İslam'ın bir göstergesidir.